When does an image stop being art and start being just an algorithm? Who is the artist when a machine generates the picture? The coder, the prompter, or the model itself? And what happens to the centuries of drawing, painting, sculpting when a line of text can now produce a masterpiece in 10 seconds? These are not abstract questions. They sit right at the center of one of the most heated debates in the art world today, AI art. Hello everyone, I am Akanksha. Welcome back to Flashback Friday, Season 2, presented by Art with Abir. Today, on Flashback Friday, we are not traveling to a pavilion or a museum. We are traveling into the interface, into the glowing screens where humans and machines now make images together. Let's start simple. What exactly is AI art? AI art usually refers to images, videos, or even sounds generated with the help of artificial intelligence. Most often using generative models like DALL-E, Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, and many others. These systems are trained on enormous databases of existing images and text. They learn patterns. How light falls on face, how a brushstroke looks like in oil paint, what in the style of Impressionism statistically tends to resemble. When a user types a prompt, a rainy evening in Chandni Chowk in the style of an old Mughal miniature. For example, the model doesn't search for pre-existing picture. It generates a new image by remixing and recombining what it has statistically understood from its training data. The process is mathematical, but the result can feel uncannily like illustration, painting, or photography. AI art can be fully machine-generated or a hybrid process. Artists sketch, collage, photograph, and then use AI as a tool to extend, distort, refine, or animate their work. Increasingly, AI is embedded inside familiar software, Photoshop, video editing tools, design apps, blurring the line between traditional digital art and AI art. AI images seem to be everywhere. Instagram feeds, ads, album covers, even political propaganda. How did it become so big so fast? There are three main reasons. First, accessibility. Earlier, working with AI meant knowing code, databases, and math. Now most tools run on websites or apps. If you can type, you can generate an image. This has opened visual creation to people who never trained as artists, copywriters, marketers, small business owners, and teenagers on their phones. Say, 10-character sketches can now be prompted and iterated in minutes. This has made AI incredibly attractive to industries with tight deadlines and limited budgets. Advertising, gaming, social media, content, and even architecture visualization. Third, aesthetic novelty. The surreal mashups, impossible lighting, and hyper-detailed fantasy world that AI can produce have their own visual signature. For many people, that AI look feels fresh, futuristic, and shareable. Perfect for a culture driven by scrolling and immediate visual impact. For some, AI is not the enemy of art. It's the next brush, the next camera, the next Photoshop. What do they say in it? Supporters of AI art often emphasize creativity, accessibility, and collaboration. They argue that AI can act like a creative partner, a fast, responsive assistant that helps artists brainstorm forms, compositions, and color palettes they may not have imagined on their own. A sculptor might use AI to prototype installations. An architect might generate atmospheric views of a future building. A filmmaker might visualize storyboards at speed. AI also lowers entry barriers. Someone who cannot afford art school, software, or equipment can still experiment visually with just a phone and an internet connection. In regions with fewer institutional resources, this feels a democratization of image making. And then there is a play. Prompting an AI model can feel like improvising with a jazz musician or jamming with a brand. You try words, the model responds with images. You refine, it adjusts. For more artists, that back and forth becomes a new kind of studio practice. Part writing, part curating, part directing. But if this were only a story of playful collaboration, the debate would not be so intense. The strongest critique of AI art go far beyond. I don't like the style. One of the biggest concerns is training data and consent. Most large AI models have been trained on vast collections of images scraped from the internet, including works by living artists who never gave permission. This can be imitated with a simple prompt in the style of ... Many artists see this as a form of unpaid, uncredited extraction, a new kind of digital colonism where creative labor becomes raw material for corporations. Another anxiety is economic. If company can generate quick concept art instead of hiring a junior illustrator, this fear is especially sharp for freelancers and commercial artists whose clients care more about speed and price. There is also the question of authorship and originality. If an AI model recombines millions of prior images, can any output truly can be called original? And who is the author? The person who wrote the prompt, the engineers who built the model, the artist whose work trained it, or the company that owns the servers. Traditional ideas of the artist as genius begin to blur. Finally, there is a cultural concern. If AI-generated images flood platforms, they can drown out slower, human-made practices. Attention, our most limited resource, might shift toward what is most instantly spectacular, not what is most thoughtful or historically rooted. For museums, galleries, and biennales, this raises hard curatorial questions about what kind of making to support. Underneath all these arguments, a quieter question persists. Is AI art real art? Some says yes, because art has always absorbed new tools. Oil paint was once a new technology. Photography was once considered cheating. Digital collage, video art, even Photoshop filters were once dismissed as less authentic. Over time, artists pushed each medium beyond easy effects, using it to express complex, precise ideas. AI, in this view, is just the latest medium waiting for its true innovators. Others say it depends on who is using it and how. When AI is used thoughtfully, with awareness of its limitations, with respect for the artist whose work trained it, and with clear authorship, it can become part of a larger human-driven practice. But when it is used to imitate living artists, replace labor, or flood culture with generic imagery, it becomes less about art and more about extraction. The most nuanced position may be this: AI art is real when it participates in the long conversation of art, when it reflects on history, power, identity, memory, or environment, and when a human takes responsibility for those meanings. The machine can produce images. Only humans can be accountable for what those images do in the world. So where does this leave us? On one side, astonishing new tools, new visual languages, and new possibilities for people far beyond the traditional art world. On the other side, serious questions of consent, labor, authorship, and cultural noise. Perhaps the most honest way to think about AI art is not as the death of art, nor as its glorious future, but as a new terrain, a geography of images we are only just beginning to map. The real question is not, can AI make art? It is, what kind of art world do we want built around these tools? Who gets credited, who gets paid, and whose imagination gets respected? AI may change how pictures are made, but what they mean, how they are used, and who they serve, that is still fiercely a human choice. This was Flashback Friday with Art with Abir. See you next week when another story from the past or the near future might just explain the images on your screen today.